So I tried to gather up all the male things that I could think of that would be flattering to the male with regards to the root chakra, the sports that I just listed, and obviously during intercourse, the male anatomy, root chakra is the active portion of the act, and essentially the female just kind of lays there and breathes and moves. And that brings that male energy up higher, is what it should do. The female should be bringing that energy up and raising that kundalini energy of the male upwards to the higher chakras. I have a Playboy magazine here. Nice, huh? It's from 1987. And I got this one because it has a black person, Little Richard. So, this is from July 1987. It's vintage. And I just got this just because this is another thing that males are fixated genitally for the most part, because that's where your power is, let's face it. And it's the one thing that you have different than the females. Actually, there's two things, but that's the strong area that you have different than the females. And the female strong area is in the second chakra. That's a later video. The porn industry is kind of making males more passive sexually, and having the females do a lot more of the work. Although you can't escape the actual natural, the natural way completely. So, I just wanted to throw that in there because I think that industry is trying to masculinize the female and trying to feminize the males for the most part. So just a note of caution. Let's see. Okay, so the fact that the males have superior balance and stability on the earth makes them athletic, and this is a great comfort to the Shakti, which is the female, especially during times of pregnancy. Obviously, a pregnant female is not going to be able to go out and chop wood or slaughter an animal or something, and really shouldn't have to do those things anyway, just because the male is much better at it and more efficient at it because of his lower center of gravity. So it says the Shiva can be depended on to build and repair infrastructure that women and children depend on. Okay. The first video I made in this series is a good example of what it looks like when a female is trying to do the male thing. It's rough going, and it was very hard to watch. This was a discovery for me as I struggled to open my root chakra, and I realized that all I would need to do is focus on the Shiva. So I left the first video up there because it is a real thing, and it's a good example of what can happen to a female when she's struggling to connect with the ground and struggling in a male-dominated world and trying to be a male. You find, you see those kind of females where they're trying too hard and it hurts. It's sad. It's hard to look at because they shouldn't have to compete. They shouldn't have to, to exert themselves aggressively, as I was doing in that first video. So it's a great example of a real, genuine train wreck, and what the root chakra energy that's the negative side of it. For the female to be alone in this world in general is not a very good look, because females don't have that stability in the first chakra. They don't have that connection to the earth, whereas males can do the cowboy thing really good, and it looks good on them. It looks good on males. However, if males stay in that space too long, if they're alone for too long, then they are going to feel like something is missing, because there are aspects of the male that can only be accessed through the chakra. Drift. The base of the spine is where a coiled serpent sleeps. This serpent represents the creative and procreative power in the human being. This kundalini can be raised through breathing, yoga, and meditation practices designed to awaken this slumbering serpent power and to guide it out of the reptilian base, the reptilian home base, and up through the higher aspects of the human being. The word kundalini is it's the foundational word of the word kunti, which is a Hindu word. I think it means something like mother or something like that, and it's where we get the word cunt. So just throw that in there. So I wrote this whole thing describing all the chakras, but I'm not going to do that because I'm in the root chakra right now, which is why I don't sound extremely eloquent, because it's hard to think, because your brain is up here, and if you're down in your root chakra, it's the connection. It's very difficult. It's almost impossible for me. As you could see in that first video, I was struggling so hard to get the words out. I just kept shouting, root chakra, root chakra, root chakra. That's all I could do, because I couldn't articulate what I was trying to say. And I'm also having difficult time articulating what I'm trying to say right now, because I'm in the root chakra and I'm describing the root chakra. So I'm not gonna try to elaborate poetically about the rest of the chakras. I'm just going to say, okay, so you want to raise the energy up, and it ends up out of your crown. So you want to raise it from the base to the crown and beyond. This is the true purpose of the orgasm. This is the truly holy climax that awakens the latent divinity of humankind. The supreme being in heaven is only one undivided being. In order to experience love, it projects itself into a world as a duality, a male and a female. There is no greater satisfaction for a human being than to overcome this illusion of duality, to actualize and realize our oneness is to remember our true identity.
So then, why?
Okay, so red is the color of the root chakra. Red is the color of Shiva. Red is the color of root chakra, and it's the color of sex, obviously. The root chakra is where it's your root, it's your fruit, and that is where the fruit is born as well. That is where the human being is born into the world. That is where the family jewels are contained in the male anatomy, the testes. They call it the family jewels for a reason, because the root chakra represents Saturn. It represents wealth, worldly wealth. I feel like I'm missing something. I feel like I'm leaving something out. Let me check. So I think that's all I can think of with regards to the male power center, which is the root chakra. Females can access this power center through the male because of the way the world is, and we're being forced to depend on each other more than we should have to. Obviously, in some cultures, this gets taken out of context and it gets taken too far to where females are not even allowed any rights at all as human beings because they're female. Places like Saudi Arabia is a good example of this, where no matter what age the female is, no matter what her economic status or what her achievements have been in her life, she has to depend on a male for permission to do anything. She can't travel. She can't even go to the store by herself. She has to have a male chaperone at all times. And the male can be a child or an elder. It doesn't matter. It just has to be male. And so in Saudi Arabia, that is the pinnacle of male supremacy, having to do with the root chakra. Like I mentioned in the first video, Muslims migrate to Mecca every year and they circle around a big black cube, which is the representation of Saturn. These people are worshiping Saturn. It's really a big problem because the energy of the first chakra can be very oppressive, extremely oppressive. And if anyone wants to see what the downside of that energy is, well, for one thing, you can watch the first video I made in the series, but you can do some research about Saudi Arabia and about how the women live in Saudi Arabia. It's just absolutely unacceptable. And I would love to see people protesting in the street about that. I actually did post a video some time back that was a documentary on the subject. Very, very informative, very insightful. And I highly recommend that everyone watches it because we have to be careful. It's a slippery slope. Not too long ago, the United States had similar policies where women were the property of their husbands and they were not allowed any rights of their own. They couldn't vote, they couldn't travel, they couldn't divorce their husbands. It was very oppressive here in the United States 100 years ago and 200 years ago. So we can't ever forget that and try to keep it into perspective that if we're not careful in our own culture and we allow the degradation of women in any way, of any woman anywhere in our country, that, you know, we could slide backwards in time. So I appreciate you watching this video. I hope that it made up for the first video, which is just a complete hot mess. I'm completely aware of that, and I'm leaving it there because it is an example of a train wreck of a female dealing with the first chakra. So may you be well and happy, peaceful and prosperous. Namaste.